Back to it.
After Glenn's death, Maggie was devastated. She didn't want to burden the team anymore and decided to go to the Hilltop alone. Eventually, Sasha took it upon herself to protect Maggie on their journey to the Hilltop. Before long, they arrived at the Hilltop. Dr. Harlan examined Maggie and explained a bunch of medical jargon, basically saying her health wasn't good. Maggie felt scared and asked anxiously if she had lost her baby. Harlan shook his head, assuring Maggie that although her condition was risky, it was only mild, and the baby was healthy. Maggie breathed a sigh of relief. With Glenn gone, this child became even more precious, serving as Maggie's motivation to keep going. However, Harlan advised Maggie to stay at the Hilltop from now on, in case any emergencies arose. When she comes out, Maggie goes to Glenn's grave and Sasha gives her the pocket watch she found on Glenn's body. Abraham left behind only a cigar. Marge and Sasha, they are sad. Instead of putting away the watch, Maggie placed it on Glenn's tomb. At that moment, Jesus also arrived with 2 bouquets, expressing his condolences and comforting them, urging them to look ahead in life. Then Gregory appeared there too. Seeing Maggie's improved condition, he questioned them. "Didn't you say you wiped out the saviors?" Maggie could only briefly explain the saviors' situation. They had only taken down 1 outpost, while the real saviors numbered in the hundreds. Gregory felt alarmed, fearing that the saviors might find out that the Hilltop was involved too. Maggie reassured him that they hadn't leaked any information. Relieved, Gregory advised them to leave early the next morning. If the saviors discovered them, it would be trouble. Ironically, Gregory, as a leader, was probably the worst among all the teams. Since the Hilltop's establishment, he could only remember Jesus' name. He would call everyone else by the wrong names. He even mistook Sasha for a Hilltop member and advised her and Maggie to keep their distance. Gregory's idea is simple: just play dumb in the end times. It's better to be alive than anything else. Meanwhile, in Alexandria's safe zone, the tribute day was approaching, and Rick planned to take some people out for a few days to scavenge for supplies. Initially, he wanted to bring Carl along, but Carl resisted, not willing to accept that fate. In his heart, his father was the bearded man who could overcome any challenge. Helplessly, Rick and Aaron set out together, as staying alive was the most important thing. Shortly after they left, Enid decided to climb the wall and go to the Hilltop to check on Maggie's condition, and Carl accompanied her. As Carl and Enid walked on the road to the Hilltop, their mutual affection grew, and in each other's company, they no longer hid their feelings. Though they didn't have a car, the long journey felt sweet and easy. That night, while Maggie was sound asleep, she was suddenly awakened by noises from outside. Sasha looked out and saw that the gate had been opened, and there was a car parked in the middle blaring loud music. Zombies had already started coming in, and to make matters worse, someone had locked all their doors and windows shut. Fortunately, there was a window on the roof of the RV. Sasha told Maggie to stay inside and said she would handle things outside. After Sasha came out, there were already over a dozen zombies inside. She quickly jumped off the RV, intending to shut off that damn music. As Sasha stepped down, Maggie also climbed to the top of the RV. She turned and saw Jesus, shouting loudly for him to help Sasha. Jesus didn't hesitate and immediately flipped down from the 2nd floor. Meanwhile, Maggie continued to direct the others to find a way to close the main gate. As for Gregory, the so-called leader of this place, he took one look at the window and was scared out of his wits. Acting like an invisible man, Sasha killed zombies all the way and finally arrived at the car. However, the car was firmly fixed and the doors couldn't be opened. There was even a middle finger gesture at the rear of the car, which was obviously done deliberately by someone. Sasha tried to pry the car open for a while, but it wouldn't budge, and more zombies were attracted to the noise. As they were about to go back to close the gate, a loud rumbling sound was heard. Maggie was actually driving a big-footed vehicle and crushing over, seemingly trying to crush the car. Jesus and Sasha continued to kill the zombies. The big-footed vehicle arrived, and as expected, it rolled over the car without any problems, and the music finally stopped. The crisis of the night was resolved. Early the next morning, Jesus came to Gregory's office to ask if he was going to kick them out after Maggie and Sasha had been so helpful last night. But Gregory told Jesus that he was the one in charge, not him. In fact, Jesus knew Gregory wasn't leadership material, and if he wanted to take over, the people inside would support him 100%. However, Jesus didn't like such power struggles. While they were arguing, Sasha and Maggie walked in. Gregory directly told them he appreciated their help last night and would repay them with a can of tomato sauce. But now it was time for them to leave. Sasha was not pleased and said they wouldn't leave no matter what. She asked him to state his conditions. Gregory shamelessly looked Sasha up and down and then suggested they talk privately. Just the two of them.
Explore. Go to hell.
Gregory didn't think this woman would dare to insult him and was prepared to drive them away again. Just then, the roar of a car engine came from outside, and everyone nervously looked out. Oh no! It was the Savior's coming. Gregory hurriedly asked Jesus to hide Sasha and Maggie in the closet and told them to stay quiet. Maybe they could save their lives. Gregory took a sip of wine, preparing to deal with these bandits. This time, it was Simon, Negan's right-hand man, who came here with over 20 of the saviors. Gregory timidly opened the mansion's door to greet them. This was Simon's first time here. It's always been the stronghold that Rick took out that does the docking. Gregory greeted them with false enthusiasm. Simon asked Gregory to talk in his office, as there were some questions that needed answering. Soon they were seated. Simon directly told Gregory that they were the ones responsible for last night's incident. Wanting to show the people here what zombies looked like, Gregory dared not get angry but instead expressed gratitude for the Savior's kindness. Simon then mentioned the outpost that was wiped out. Gregory acted surprised, claiming it was the first time he had heard of it. During the conversation, Gregory continued to flatter and express loyalty to Negan. Simon appreciated Gregory's behavior and praised him for doing well. As long as he didn't try to deceive or play tricks, he could live well. At this point, Gregory's expression became a little unnatural. He thought of Maggie and the others inside, and the consequences would be dire if they were discovered. Simon also noticed Gregory's expression and asked if there was anything he wanted to say. After much consideration, Gregory decided to take Simon to the closet. They walked out of the office and headed towards the closet. Jesus was surprised. This old man was actually going to betray Maggie. Gregory reached the closet and gave Jesus a look. Jesus shook his head, but Gregory still opened the cabinet. Simon was surprised and asked if he was joking, as there was nothing inside. Gregory improvised and quickly took out his precious bottle of aged wine, claiming it was a treasure. In the end, Simon took away all of Gregory's cherished wine, leaving him feeling heartbroken. Jesus gloats over Gregory. Simon's purpose for coming here was to sweep through and take half of what they considered theirs in supplies, then re-establish ties with the Hilltop. When Simon walks up to the door, the mannerisms felt like an imitation of his boss, Negan. Simon turned back to Gregory and said,
"Can I just get a meal out of you?"
Excuse me?
Meal.
That's a solid meal, Gregory.
Gregory nodded. In his mind, as long as he could stay alive, these things were trivial. Satisfied, Simon left to direct his people. Just then, Carl and Enid arrived at the Hilltop gate, just in time to see the saviors loading things onto trucks. Carl seemed a bit disappointed that Negan didn't come personally. Enid realized that Carl didn't come to protect her specifically. He must be planning something against Negan. Enid knew she had no reason to stop Carl. She could only tell him to come back alive. And they said their goodbyes with a kiss. Inside the house, Jesus released Sasha and Maggie. Gregory stormed in and shouted at Jesus, "I told you to hide them in the hallway closet, but you put them in my bedroom." Actually, Jesus had anticipated that this old man might change his mind, so he changed the hiding place. This time, Jesus stood firm and told Gregory that Maggie and Sasha had to stay, or else he wouldn't mind taking over his authority. Seeing Jesus being so strong-willed, Gregory redirected his anger towards Maggie and continued to praise the saviors for being reasonable. Gregory is greeted by a big punch from Maggie. He was a classic case of a bully who was afraid of strong people, and now he didn't dare say anything. Maggie looked at Gregory's waist and was appalled to see that he shamelessly took the watch from Glenn's grave. Maggie firmly told Gregory that from now on, this place was their home, and he had to learn to address them properly. No more nauseating nicknames like Marcia, dear, or sweetheart. My name is Maggie Ree. After that, Maggie took the watch back to Glenn's grave. However, she looked up and saw 3 green balloons tied there. Enid arrived there, and they hugged each other tightly. By the time the saviors had finished moving their stuff, they were ready to leave. and it was a couple of truckloads long. The Hilltop finally sent the bandits packing, but just behind the last truck, a figure climbed in stealthily. It was the agile Jesus. Once he got on, Jesus immediately picked up the alcohol that Gregory offered to the saviors and began drinking. He drank half and poured half out. Jesus was surprised. He didn't expect Rick's son to be inside the truck. What was this guy planning to do?